What's going on, gang, and welcome back to another episode of Scared of Normal. My name is Mike Murphy, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Sean Neer and James Stocco, and today we're sitting down with Max Hofert, and I'm beyond stoked about this one. Thank you for taking the time to come sit and drink coffee. Sorry we're running a little behind this morning, but yeah, I think this one's going to be super fun, man.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get started with you telling us a little bit about who you are for the people who are listening that don't know.
Yeah, my name is Max Hofert. Grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan area. Been in Colorado for about 12 years now, 13 years. Grew up obviously in Michigan. Life was a little bit different than here. A lot of lakes, that kind of thing. But started skateboarding when I was 4-ish, around there. My dad actually was a skater back in the day, so he got me into it pretty young.
That's sick, man. I want to also say before we get any further into this, big shout out to your dad because that's how we know you. Your dad has been a loyal Traction family member for going on probably 2 years now. And I get stoked every time I see his name roll through. And it's cool that you're sitting here now. So
I totally forget about that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, dude. Yeah.
Full circle.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever met your dad in person, but he seems like a rad
dude.
We've talked. Yeah, we should. We've talked on Twitter before. So, that's sick, man. Growing up skateboarding, how did you get into that? Just through your dad or?
Yeah. And really, really quickly became obsessed with it. And that was all I did. And everyone on the neighborhood block skated too. A lot of kids did. So my dad would build half pipes. We had angle iron ledges in the driveway.
Oh, that's
and
sick.
We had this pretty long driveway, and it would just be neighborhood kids over with the session.
Dude,
liability levels were high.
Sounds like real life rocket power a little bit, kind of being the neighborhood hub of all the cool shit going on. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. Lots of injuries growing up. I fell on this PVC rail that we had and got the screw stuck in my leg.
No way.
No.
So just crazy shit.
How bad, in your thigh?
Yeah. And then the neighborhood kid went into shock, so he didn't even know what to do at the time.
Yeah.
And he just was staring at me wide-eyed while I had the thing stuck in my leg.
Oh my gosh.
So-
You're go get my parents.
It was just,
How old were you?
I think I was 10 probably
Oh, wow.
at that point. That was the first really serious, pretty gnarly one. I got 15 stitches in my leg.
Oh,
Dang.
so serious, yeah.
Yeah, but it was pretty funny. He just froze and turned white and just stood over me not knowing what to do. So
Dude, I always say
Do something.
Yeah, for sure. I always say how interesting it is coming from the background. For us it's BMX and you it's skateboarding, but how early on in life you learn how to deal with gnarly stuff like that, because you're out with your friends and hitting the ground and you're dude, we have to take care of each other in this way, and that's not something a lot of people ever learn in life,
Yeah.
Think about people when they see somebody get in a car accident or whatever, they're in that situation, whereas one of us that have seen it before, it's you're kind of prepared for it. So it's kind of interesting to think back to those moments, and kind of what that prepares you for in life.
Yeah, you're more comfortable in the fight or flight situation.
Totally, man. Totally.
So was your dad skating alongside you at this young age? Does he still skate now?
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
So he stopped in his mid 30s, but he would try and roll through the parks and just get slammed. He would shred, but then I think when he would fall, it would be pretty gnarly. I remember he would get these goose eggs that were that
Damn.
big, swell bow. And he'd just pretend it was nothing, but you knew it would just,
Oh my God. Now
throbbing.
thinking back on it, you're oh yeah. Yeah, I remember.
He's probably bummed now not skating because of where you live here in Colorado, because he lives out here too, and how fortunate we are for all the incredible resources we have with the skate parks and everything.
Yeah, and when he grew up skateboarding, it was much, much different. It was ramps, all vert, and they had this. My parents actually met working at a skate shop called Waves and Wheels in Michigan.
Okay.
And they had this, I think it was a 9 or 10 foot vert ramp out there, and all the pros would come through town. Steve Caballero was there for a while, and my dad got to skate with him, but that was their spot. That's all they had.
Damn.
There was no street skating really. I mean, there was cruising around, but in like the late 70s, street skating wasn't that big yet.
Totally. Yeah, it was like probably like a lot of like you said, the vert stuff and like that flat ground style, like real cool flippy
Freestyle.
like freestyle, man. Like it's so cool to look back on how like that industry has changed and like see where it is now. Like, does he still watch skate videos and like probably have his mind blown by what's going on now?
Yeah, he sends me stuff every day. Like, look at this, man.
No
He's
way.
still super into the vert
That's
stuff,
so cool,
like
man.
big air.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny because now I'm starting to try and get better at that realm of skateboarding, like transition, which I was never into it. Like,
Really?
I was never that good at it. I was always in love street skating.
Okay.
And so now that I'm getting older,
I was
it's
just
like,
gonna ask, is it because of age? Because the transition is a less of a blow than landing flat all the time.
yeah, exactly.
Or jumping down some stairs. Like even just we rode Sandstone Skate Park, which is 5 minutes from here, the other day together, and just watching you like skate ledges and stuff. I was just like, that's insane, dude. Just because like the amount of like times you fail to like get the trick perfect, like that's just skateboarding, man. It's crazy to me. Like if you fall that much on a bike, like you're in a bad spot, dude. Like yeah.
It's so tedious.
What about so like growing up, and you just mentioned Steve Caballero, like as far as what decade was it when you were first started getting into skating? Is that 90s or is it 2000s?
Yeah, early 90s. So it was like street skating was just starting to really take off, I think, like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Obviously, people were doing it before then, but it was like people were starting to film and videos were coming out, and skateboarding was transitioning from like very contest driven, like these big events, into like, oh, this is an art form that we can create with these full-length videos. And then filming was like a whole new thing. Once me and my buddies would have like these big ass video cameras back in the day.
I love it, dude.
The
I could just
Sony
picture it.
V1000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Literally, we'd have to take like, we had these bags that were like probably 2 feet wide, and they would just be filled with tapes because we'd film for hours.
Yep.
And you just fucking reload them all the time.
No
and
shit.
tape over.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, were you taping over like previous things?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man.
So who were you looking up to back then? Because yeah, like you said, it was when the videos were coming out, so that was our exposure. Obviously, it was before the internet, before YouTube. So who were you looking up to, or whose video parts were you super stoked on seeing?
I'd say in the early years when I was really young, I would just check out like the old Thrasher magazines my dad had, and it would be like Bones Brigade type stuff that I was really digging on. But then once I got to start watching videos, like the VHS tapes came out, it was like I was obsessed with Flip Sorry growing up, that like Jeff Rowley, all those guys. And then the Baker videos were always like, that was in like the prime of, I think I was in middle school, and we were just filming so many skate videos, and we wanted to just like recreate Baker 3.
That's so dope, dude.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any of those videos that you guys filmed that are still at like your parents' house or anything like that?
I've been trying to find them forever. I'm not in contact with those people too much anymore, but one of them I recently started chatting with again, and he sent me a video of us when we were probably like 12 at this indoor skate park. And we were just sessioning the thing, like,
oh, that's cool.
Filming
dude.
on the handy cam.
Yeah.
So
So
funny.
you can go back and look and see where you've come from, basically.
Yeah, that's the only one I was able to find.
That's so
damn.
funny. Was there so I'm guessing skateboarding is the only thing you kind of thought about as a kid. Biking was the only thing for me. Imagine same for you. Like, was there one, is that all you thought about? And two, was there like a defining moment when you're doing all these skate vids that you're like, hey, I want to take this pretty far. Like, this is who I want to be?
Yeah, I was obsessed with skateboarding. Like that, I have a very addictive personality, so that was like my thing.
Yep.
I'd love to be outside all the time. Obviously, like growing up in Michigan, there's woods everywhere, so that was like the other thing we like to do a lot, is hang out in the woods and skate. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
Like,
so sick.
play by the river and all that stuff. But it was mainly skateboarding for all those years.
Totally.
That's so rad. At what age do you think that you were like, I want this to be like my life? Like, I want to be a professional skateboarder.
I don't honestly know that I ever really wanted that.
Really?
Yeah, I was just loved doing it.
Yeah.
I saw like the lifestyle was super appealing when I was younger, but then as I got older and more like into filming on a bigger scale, I just liked to film videos. Honestly, I was like, it seems like being a pro skater would be very difficult.
For
like,
sure.
just slamming for a living all day long, and then you're like toast by the time you're 35.
Well, I like you talking about like that creative process of the video, because like, you know, everything you do to this day outside of skateboarding even is like very creative focused. So it's cool to like hear that tie all the way back to, you know, your younger years of like being creative behind and in front of the camera. That's pretty sick, dude.
Yeah, and like I think just creating a video part, there's so much that goes into it that's just what I was all about for so
sure.
long. Like the music's super important. Every single trick is like 200 to 300 tries, and it's only 4 seconds of a whole part. So it's like, that's what I was really loved.
When you're like filming for parts, do you put more emphasis on the trick or do you put more emphasis on the spot?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Yeah.
Or is it kind of just like a hybrid of depending on where you're at in the day or like in your head at that time?
It's kind of a mix, honestly. I like to skate spots that people are like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like that's not even a spot really. Like,
I love that.
and then just figuring out the most kind of creative approach you can take to it.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, I was all about like heavy rails. And then I've had 13 concussions, a lot from hockey. When I played hockey when I was younger, that was also a pretty fun thing I did. And then snowboarding, I was super into snowboarding. So I'd say like skateboarding and snowboarding, because you can't skate in the winter in Michigan.
You sure?
So it was the snowboarding at a very young age too. So by the time I was 20, I already had a ton of concussions. So now I like flipped in the past few years the way I was after a really bad head injury, kind of changed the way I was skating into more like a creative approach. Like I started doing a lot different tricks, like a lot of wall rides, hippie jumps, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Instead of just like the gnarly rails.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense because like when you watch people skate gnarly rails, it's like, for me, I'm like, I mean, I see the clips of the dudes who just like jump down the stair set to just test what it is. And I'm just like, dude, what?
Yeah.
Like if I jump off this table that we're sitting at, my knees feel like they're going to explode. So like more power to you for like sending it down that stuff and like going down rails and stuff. Like that is just the most mental thing in the world to me. So.
Yeah, I feel like every heavy slam clip on Instagram is some dude trying to do a 12 stair rail, and they just like head back slam, you know, and you're just like, oh my God.
It's heavy, dude.
That's like my last slam. That was like the final straw. I was trying to foot plant this wall. It was like a 10 stair and there's a wall on the side, and I was trying to foot plant the side of it. But I had ollied so high that my foot, when I went to plant, went over the top of the wall.
Oh.
And I was like probably 7-8 feet in the air, and I was flat. So I went from that all the way down onto
Just
my
like
face.
pancaked.
Oh,
my
dude.
gosh.
So I had like a huge contusion on my face that was like swelling my eyes shut. I like chipped all my teeth out and fractured both my wrists. So it was like my ears were ringing for like 24 hours after that. And I was like, I literally might be a vegetable if I don't change what I'm
That's
doing.
insane. Yeah, that's like a pretty gnarly way to have a wake up call, you know? Like,
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Yeah.
That was like 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so you've just seen your skating develop in a different direction.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely like a lot more creative stuff that's not necessarily as heavy, but more like thought goes into the spot, like you were saying, like finding really unique spots.
let's talk about that injury a little bit more. Like coming back from something that heavy is really hard to do, to like step back on the skateboard. Like what was your process to like get back on it? Were you like dying to get back on the board, or were you like, I don't ever want to do this again?
Oh, I was ready to get back.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like I had some pretty bad injuries before, but not like that one. They were mainly when I was younger and when I was drinking a lot. I had some bad head injuries snowboarding, but I couldn't really recollect them. So this one was like, I was sober, this was gnarly, and it was just a few years ago.
Yeah,
So
and it gets harder too, you know, the older you get, because you have like more responsibilities, right? Like you're like, I have bills and like I have family, and like you have all these things going on where like when you're younger and you knock yourself out, you're like, I can just lay on the couch and I don't have to worry about anything. So like I'm sure that played a massive factor in like needing like that style change too. That's crazy, man.
yeah, my wife, like, she's super, super supportive in all of my skateboarding. But after that one, she was like, listen, man, like, you gotta
figure it out.
we're trying to have a family. Like, you can't,
Yeah,
like 13 concussions is a lot.
for sure, man.
So
I think it's hard for us too. It's like, I think the way we get away from trauma is repetition. We want to go up and do it again to like show your brain like, hey, it just happened. It's not going to happen again. And that's like you're saying, you want to get back on the board, and you're just like, hey, I know it happened, but you're trying to like tell your wife, but it is true.
Yeah.
Like concussions sneak up on you, and I'm stoked to hear about your change, you know, like, I don't know. I'm the same way. I had a bad slam the other day, and I'm just like, all right, maybe I need to like chill in this, you know, realm. So
yeah, because when you get hurt on that level, like the doctors were like, dude, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
you need to quit.
Yeah.
But they don't understand
Yeah.
like any of that.
They don't understand that's like what makes you tick, right? Like
Exactly.
it's really hard to like sit down with a medical professional that like actually understands that like mentality, because not many do. You know, they usually err on the more conservative side of lifestyle, where like for us, like there's no question in our mind that we're gonna get right back to it, right?
You're like, this is my person,
Yeah.
like my being.
And the second that starts to creep into your mind that might not be the case, like life gets pretty dark, man. It really does.
it did, yeah.
So
they're going to be like, hey, if you keep hitting your head, you're going to be depressed, you know, all these mental problems. And you're like, hey, if I don't skate, I'm going to be
Exactly.
depressed.
Gonna be that
you know?
way,
You're
yeah.
like, I'm going to be depressed. So like, I'm going to skate.
I'm
So,
just gonna change how I do it.
Yeah.
a little bit.
So you said that you're sober, and you were sober when you took that slam, right?
Yep.
How long have you been sober?
About 8.5 years now.
Wow, congratulations.
So wow.
that's a massive milestone.
That's
man.
insane.
That's so sick. Actually, the first time I remember bringing you coffee was your 7-year anniversary. Your dad ordered, he had hit us up, and he was like, can I get 7 pounds of
that's
coffee for
right.
your 7-year anniversary? And I was like, dude, hell yeah. Like that was the coolest thing in the world. Like just hearing like the support from like the parents, and like that's so cool, man. So
yeah, man, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was sick.
massive congrats on that huge milestone, dude. That's insane.
Going back
Yeah.
to, so obviously after that concussion, you were off your board, I assume, for a little bit, but you're excited to get back. But you didn't have that. Was that a point in your sobriety that it really tested you?
Not at that point, no, because I had been really far along. But I previously, when I've had injuries, it ended the sobriety for me, because I had, that was my everything. I put all my addiction into skateboarding, and that's like all I did instead of drink booze all day long. And so when all of a sudden you can't do that, it's like,
Channel the energy.
what am I
somewhere.
gonna do?
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I started drinking at a really, really young age. I was like 12 or 13, and it was like the first time, loved it.
Right.
And I didn't drink because I was like sad or depressed or anything like that. I'm just an anxious person. And the first time I had tried alcohol, it was like, holy shit, this is like, I don't feel anxious. I don't feel weird. So then it was kind of, from there, it kind of turned into, I really love this shit, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you think the alcohol kind of coincided with skateboarding, just because like, you know, that industry is so like, when you watch the videos, especially the older stuff, like the lifestyle is like we party super hard and we skateboard super hard, and you know, BMX is kind of the same way, where it's like that is the lifestyle and that's kind of what you're expected to do. So do you think that played a factor into like early age drinking too?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I also think like just Michigan, I think people drink at an earlier age. It's like more, I don't want to say like culturally accepted, but
Yeah.
it's just
It's
drinking
more
is really
up
common there.
Yeah.
And so booze, you have parents, not my parents, but friends' parents had like huge ass liquor cabinets.
Yeah.
And you could go in there and take a bottle and they would never know. So it's like that.
The access is
I
just
don't
there.
see that. Like
That's crazy. Yeah.
beer fridges outside, everyone has their like garage fridge that's just filled with booze.
Stacked.
And so it
Well,
was
I mean, when
there.
the lakes freeze over and you go out fishing on them, you
Yeah.
got to be drunk, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that the skating like lifestyle mixed with that was
Just
what
kind
did
of like
it.
emulsified.
And just like the rebellious nature of wanting to like, this is pretty fun, like breaking the rules and go and sneak out and drink wine, shitty ass wine.
Well, when you're in 7th, 8th grade, you're like, yeah, I'm a badass,
This
right?
is sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Well, and
But-
like, yeah, you don't realize that it could develop into something gnarlier than what it is because, like, you're so young and you're having fun, man.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's what happened. Like by the time I was in high school, it was like me and my group of friends. I hung out with quite a few people, but then we had like our core buddies, and we all loved drinking. And it started as like a weekend thing that we just loved to party. We weren't drinking to like escape like life or anything, but we just loved to party. And obviously, I like to drink because it helped my anxiety.
Sure.
And so then it just became like, it progressed more and more each year of like 9th grade. Oh, now we're going to try some cocaine with it just because we're getting drunk all the time.
Yeah.
So, and then like through high school, it just more frequently drinking and it just,
When I feel like, yeah, you get a little older and like girls start hanging out and like, you know, the parties start getting a little more wild and yeah, you start involving other substances and like it turns into a slippery slope pretty quick, I could imagine, you know?
yeah.
At what point did you realize like, holy shit, this might be a problem for me?
I think like my parents got a pretty good idea early on what was going on.
Yeah.
And they tried to like stop it in a way, like, because what do you do when your kid's so young?
Yeah.
And like, you know that they're getting fucked up. And I would drink and drive even when I was like 16. So then I would get my car taken away. And the more my parents tried to like keep me away from it, that like rebellious mentality, I would just like leave, go to my buddy's house for extended periods of time and drink like
Yeah.
during the summer. And looking back, I was like, damn, dude, I was a pretty little fucker.
Yeah.
Like,
It's funny, like the older you get when you start to get the clarity on like how you were like in your adolescent years, right? Where you're just like, wow, dude, like my parents put up with a lot of shit. Like I know
Yeah.
for myself, like my parents, like I always thought they were so hard on me. And now I look back in hindsight and I'm just like, damn, dude, like I kind of sucked. Like I kind of really sucked, man. And like,
yeah.
Yeah.
that's cool. My parents still love me, dude. You know, like it's pretty crazy when you think about that. And like, you know, when your parents are taking your car away, you think they're the worst humans on earth, but they're like, dude, we want you to be alive. Like we
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to take care of you, you know, but it's hard to see that.
Yeah, I think like I showed up, I had like this old Subaru Outback at the time that I would cruise around, and it was like 3 a.m. and I just like drove home blacked out and fell down the stairs inside our house with like a shoebox full of liquor.
Oh,
God
And they were
damn.
like, what the fuck?
What are you
dude?
doing?
Like,
Yeah.
So
what,
that was
what age do you think that they started really realizing that you were out doing that stuff?
I think it was like 9th grade,
Okay,
like maybe even the summer between 8th and 9th grade.
for sure.
Because then I was like smoking cigarettes and shit too,
Yeah.
and like you can smell those a lot
Yeah.
easier. So that was a dead giveaway.
Were they just trying to like restrict your access like to help, or were they like trying to put you into like any sort of programs or like?
Just kind of, they really wanted me to just kind of. They didn't want me to change who I was hanging out with because they knew that I loved my friends and that's just they were my people. But they didn't want me to stay at their houses because they
Sure.
knew at certain houses there was abundance of liquor and that's what we would do.
Yeah.
And so they would just try strategically without being like super overbearing to like not have me sleep at certain people's houses.
Yeah. Well, like you said too, like the rebellious nature of like being a skateboarder and stuff, like they probably were wise enough to know like if they started pushing really hard on you to not go out and do that stuff, like it would probably have gotten exponentially worse. You
Yeah.
know, I can't imagine being a parent in that scenario and like just kind of figuring out like how to navigate that, man.
I know. And that's been tough too, because like my wife and we just had a baby who's 5 months old now. And we've been talking about it too, because she's sober.
Okay.
And so we're like, damn, how do we approach this? Because it could be genetic. Like,
For sure.
so that's just some stuff we've been navigating.
I mean, it's cool that you guys are in the spot that you're in now and that you're aware of having those conversations, and like that's going to make your child's life exponentially better, you know, because you can have those conversations. Because I don't think a lot of people are aware, you know, when, you know, they're raising a child, that that's something that could happen until it happens, you know, like that's really hard. What were your like initial steps into like seeking help for yourself?
It took a long time, honestly, like, because in high school, we were just having so much fun. That's all you care about when you're that age. And we were just doing crazy shit all the time. I remember like we'd be in the middle of the night riding on my buddy's Blazer going like 50 miles an hour, and we'd be on the roof like passing a half gallon around.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like every weekend we'd be doing I don't know how we survived, honestly. But and so it took like that shit was just so much fun for so many years. And then when I moved out to Colorado, it got really, really bad, actually. So that was, I went to college for a semester in Michigan, but I was just partying so hard that I decided I need to like unenroll myself after the first semester.
Yep.
I think my parents were pretty stoked on that decision too.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so right about that time, my parents were going to make the move to Colorado. I think that was in 2010.
Okay.
And they asked me if I wanted to go, and I was hyped because I had some buddies in high school that were like 2 or 3 years older than me that I would hang out with, and they lived in Vail and Breckenridge. So I was able to like move out here and stay with my parents for a little bit, and then I moved up there, which it was like the worst thing I could have done for sobriety.
Yeah, because I mean that is like party central, right? Like, the access to like pretty heavy drugs up there is like there's an abundance of them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, at that time I was like really into uppers and doing a lot of cocaine and that kind of thing, because when you're drinking that much alcohol, you have to have
yeah, that's the only way you can
something
really
like
like
that.
live a normal life, I'm sure, you know, is having that like upper.
Yeah. And so when I moved up there, it was like a whole different world of substances. Sure, everyone goes to a college party and sees it, but honestly, the mountains were like a whole nother story. You could walk into a bar and someone would be blasting a line of coke right off the thing right in front of the bartender. And so it was just everywhere up there. Ecstasy, did tons of that, LSD, ketamine, like crazy party drugs, always the uppers. And it took a hold of me because my jobs that I all worked at were very encouraging of open drinking while you're working, because I like tuned skis and shit. So we would like trade booze for ski tunes, and that's just kind of the life up there. You just have unlimited booze all the time.
Oh yeah.
And I was honestly like, the 5 years that I was up there, I think it was like less than 7 days that I didn't drink.
Wow.
In 5 fucking years.
That's fucked up.
That's crazy.
And it
to
wasn't
think
by
about.
choice.
Yeah.
It was because I couldn't afford to on those 7 days. Like it was bender for like, I would black out for 7 straight days sometimes.
And
It was
before we
gnarly.
get too far, I want to bring skateboarding into this conversation. Did you ever get mad at yourself that you weren't out skating? Like, how was that pairing with obviously these benders? Like,
Yeah.
were you getting pissed at yourself, or were you still skating a bunch? Like, obviously, you're an incredible skateboarder and you're putting the time in, but what did that relationship look like?
Yeah, dude, that's a great point. Because once I moved up there, I did not skate. I would like cruise a park with a buddy, like maybe once every 4 months.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do shit.
No shit.
I like was so off balance because I was so used to being intoxicated all the
Yeah.
time. Like I just didn't work.
Yeah.
And so I was snowboarding a ton more then. I grew up snowboarding a lot. So I like did that way more up there, like 100+ days a year.
Yeah.
But you can snowboard extremely wasted. Like at least I could.
Yeah.
And that was what we did all the time. Every single day, drinking liquor and snowboarding, hitting rails, like backcountry.
Dang.
That was just kind of where the shift went into.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, even even a lot of times I wouldn't even make it on the mountain. I wouldn't make it to work. Couldn't hold a job. It was just like endless.
Yeah.
Then I would end up not with the ski pass because I couldn't hold the job. So
And then I'm sure at that point you're like, you don't have a ski pass. You're like, I should just like party more. 'Cause,
exactly.
like I don't have anything like, constructive to go do. Like, yeah, that's a
That's what
a
happened.
slippery slope, man. That's a very slippery slope. So
Yeah.
were you up there and you're just like, man, I need to like make a change or?
Yeah, so I had like a lot of concerned friends up there. Like I had a lot of people that I hung out with that were very functioning in what they did. I was not whatsoever. And they would be like, dude, like you need to fucking get your shit together if you want to live like this. Like you're gonna die. You can't not go to work and
Yeah.
expect to like pay your bills.
Yeah,
Or buy liquor.
for sure.
And so I think like I had a couple drug overdoses, a combination of like I was snowboarding one day, got a head injury while I was drunk, went out and partied and became so intoxicated that I kind of just was unconscious. And they found like ketamine in my system, but I don't remember anything, but it was something to do with the head injury and the mix of alcohol and everything. So then I had to go in an ambulance for that. And I just went to detox like 4 to 5 times while I lived up there. And when all these things start stacking up, I would get those 1 days of clarity that I couldn't buy booze or something. And I'd be
Sure.
like, I can't live like this, But I was so in the day to day of, I would literally sleep with liquor next to my bed because I would wake up so sick that I would have to drink immediately. So when you're in that type of headspace, it's so hard to get out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard to see through like the murkiness to see like, hey, this is like clarity that I need to like touch and like, yeah, that's heavy, man.
How
It
were
was
those
heavy.
conversations with friends? Like, did they hit home to you, or you were just like, was it an uncomfortable conversation? Like, when your friends are looking out for you, how did you receive that?
I kind of honestly like shrugged it off.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but you're doing the same shit, but you're just better at it, kind of thing. I didn't really listen to anyone. I just was over it at one point. I had tried to get sober like a lot of times while I lived up there and I just couldn't. So finally one day I moved back down to Boulder and my parents luckily were like, yeah, you should come live with us and just so you can like actually have some time where you're not in that element. They had been trying to get me to do that for
Remove
years.
yourself from the concentration of partying and substances floating around.
Yeah. And so finally I listened to them, being the stubborn person I am. And it still took a while because obviously like I had people that I knew in Boulder that partied and I would do that. And then I would go to AA the next day and then I would drink in the parking lot after and drive home.
Damn.
And it got so bad like when I was detoxing that I remember this one episode I had, which was like the final icing on the cake. I was like, all right, I'm not going to drink after AA. I'm just going to rough this out. And I started hallucinating and thought there were people in my parents' house. And it turned into this huge thing where I was like running around the house thinking people were in there because the substance had been in my body for so long that the withdrawals were like literally making me hallucinate. And then the next day I started like having sort of convulsions from withdrawals and had to get checked in the Boulder hospital where they pumped me with I can't remember, it was some sort of like anti-anxiety drug that was an IV that helped with like the withdrawals. And so that was like major wake up call. Just like seeing the way my body was responding to not having booze was like, this is fucked up, man. Like I could die from just the withdrawal.
That's wild to think about.
Yeah. So it went from like being, oh fuck, I love partying so much, this is just so fun, to like, I literally cannot function without this for years. And so
yeah, I'm sure that was like a pretty hard realization to come to too, to be like, this thing that I think I love so much is like literally killing me when you're going through those withdrawals. Like that's got to be a hard thing to like rationalize the first time you kind of have that like true clarity, and probably almost a decade from kind of what you're talking about, you know, like
Yeah.
that's a lot, man. I'm
Yeah.
stoked that you're sitting here and like that you realize that's fucking awesome.
Pretty lucky
Yeah.
to not like have killed myself or anyone else.
Yeah.
So it was like, from after that, I was like super thankful for everything my parents had just been through, like, because I was losing my mind in their house, like, who's up there, and like
Fuck.
all this crazy shit. But after that is when I started to get pretty serious about AA, and like I went every day in the mornings, and I was like really, really getting back into skateboarding, like hitting it hard. And I had to like really, really relearn a lot of stuff because I just wasn't comfortable on the board after so many years of being
For
like
sure.
wonky, out of bounds.
Yeah, I'm sure like you almost like that equilibrium, or just like, you know, the mentality of just like how you're just going throughout your day when you're become sober. You're just like, everything is different. The way your vision is everything's different.
Yeah. And it was really wild to like experience that. It took me honestly like 2 years to get a clear head of like feeling actually sober. So that's why I think it's so hard for some people. They can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it takes time.
Yeah.
Like you can't go a week or two without drinking if you're trying to get sober, or if you, whatever drug you do,
Yeah.
and expect to like have this mindset that's completely different.
Like a profound shift just from that. Do you think a lot of it, like, you know, going to AA and stuff, did you also start removing yourself from the people that you were hanging around that were like those people that wanted to party? Like, was that a big part of it too?
Yeah. So when I moved out of the mountains, I had like my core buddies. Like I'd say it's between like 2 to 4 really good buddies that I still talk to this day that are my really good friends. And everyone else, I just like, they forgot about me and I forgot about them, kind of thing. It was like you kind of realize that these people aren't your best friends. They're just like there partying with you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's so hard for some people to kind of see when they're stuck in it. But yeah, I removed myself from it, and then I found like an entire new group of people through skateboarding in Boulder. So it was like really full circle back into skateboarding and filming a shit ton, like out there every day, and it was keeping me sober. I went to AA for like 2 months, and then I did stop going because I just felt a little weird about the religion part of it.
Sure.
But I definitely couldn't have gotten sober in the beginning without that structure.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's
So-
cool to hear too, like channeling that energy that was so heavy into partying, and then like you realizing that like, hey, this thing that like I actually really do love that's like beneficial for me long term, which is skateboarding. Like that's where I need to put this energy into. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Before we move on into, I have some more skateboarding questions, but like, do you have any words for people who may be listening that could be struggling with this, or they have a family member, like any positive words that, you know, might be able to help them?
Yeah, honestly, just keep trying. Like it takes time. And if you relapse, I relapsed a bajillion different times. And you just have to keep trying. You can't beat yourself up too much about it. I really do think AA is really important, just to have that community and structure in the beginning. Just because it's really hard to get off track unless you're doing that one thing every day that keeps you grounded. And just keep going back. Like you're going to fucking probably hate it, but you need to show up there and it will help you. Even if you don't like it, most people don't, but it does help. And I'm not a religious person or anything, and they don't really take that approach too much anymore. So don't like not go because you think it's going to be like a religious type thing, because it's not. They told me, like, I went in Boulder, they told me my God could be Jerry Garcia if I wanted.
I love it. That's
So it's like very open. And like I had setbacks from skateboarding so much, and my back, I started getting issues around like my 2-month sobriety mark. Actually, it was probably like around my month sobriety mark. And I just kept skateboarding through it because I was really scared to stop. And it was like nerve pain in my back, and it hurt to sit. It hurt to lay down. It hurt to stand. It hurt to pee. It hurt to take a shit. It kept
Just hurt to exist.
Yeah, I kept pushing it, skateboarding, getting gnarlier and gnarlier, trying to like one up everything I'm doing. And then one day I remember I landed off of this 9-stair and it was like my whole body just like turned stiff. And I was like, dude, I got to go home. Like, can you take me home to my buddy? And I couldn't sit in his car because I was like a board, like a stiff board. And it was excruciating. And so then I had to take a couple days off and I ended up going to a back doctor. And they were like, yeah, you have 3 herniated discs
Wow.
in your back. And so I had just been skating on it and just like keep going because I was afraid that I would lose my sobriety.
Sure.
And I did.
Yeah.
I did lose it. And that was after 2 months finally. And it was not good because the pain. I couldn't skate and I was also in excruciating pain. And of course, they gave me like prescription pills, which I never was really a fan of, like downers. But I took them and they didn't help. So then I went to the bottle. And luckily it was like 2 weeks of a bender before I like came out of it for good into the 8.5 years now.
That's incredible.
But you just literally have to keep trying because there's going to be hiccups. When you're an addict, you're like in love with this thing. So it's going to be a battle, so you just have to keep trying. And once you get your head sober enough, like long enough without that substance is when you can start to actually make long lasting change.
Hell yeah, man.
And you say for the 8 years, skateboarding is one of the, pillars of staying sober, just having that thing to put all your damn energy into.
Yeah. And that's a good point because I have had other injuries in that 8-year period, but I've found other outlets that I can use, like design and just art in general. And so I think like anyone that is struggling with sobriety, you have to find something that you're just crazy passionate about and you can just dump all of that. The addiction doesn't just go away. Like you have to just put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that like for me was skateboarding and art and snowboarding and all that.
Yeah.
Do you still snowboard?
Not as much.
Okay. Yeah.
Not as much. It's a lot harder nowadays to like get up to the mountains.
Well, is that's something I struggle with. I struggle with drinking some, and that I spent a lot of time snowboarding, and just everything you're saying, it was just all my homies and everything. As soon as we get out of bed, we're cracking cans of Coors Light, taking a couple shots before we get on the lift. Every lift, we've got a couple beers in our pockets, whatever, slamming beers.
It's just the culture of
It's the culture. And it took me moving away and almost to the point that like maybe I'll get like 2 days a year now snowboarding, and it's to go see friends that are coming in from out of state or something, So and also a huge appreciation for you opening up about all that stuff.
Of course, man. Yeah, I think like being open about it is what really helps. It's what helped me
for sure.
Like being around people that have gone through it. So
well, and I think for most people it's more normal than you think, especially when you're going through that. You probably feel like you're very alone in that situation, but like I think there's a lot of people that struggle with substance abuse in some capacity. So it's good to kind of bring it to the light and talk about it a little more openly. So like you said, James, thank you so much, man, for like opening up. And it means the world that you're comfortable enough to do that. So appreciate the hell out of you, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do want to circle back to skateboarding a little bit though, because you kind of brought up towards the the end of your story with being in the darkness, that skateboarding pulled you out because you started focusing a little bit more on like film projects and stuff like that. You have some really dope videos. I'll link them in here so people can check them out too. But
Thanks,
I'm
man.
curious what your favorite project is that you've worked on and why.
That's a tough one. I would probably say my buddy has this project called Skate or Die, and it's based off of this 90s video game it has a bunch of like funny characters that go and skate. It's like I think it was like Nintendo or something like that. And so he like uses a lot of that music style and edits in clips like that. And I think that's probably been the most fun to work on. And it's also like pretty funny because he films on this very specific type of camera that is like the holy grail for skateboarding, and it's the VX1000.
Yep.
Sony VX1000. And so I've filmed HD parts that were really fun. I filmed one for 2 years straight. It took 2 years to complete. That was really awesome. That was probably the hardest thing I've ever done as far as a video part. But this is like taking it back to this really old camera that is just so crispy, and the colors are so good, and they got really good fisheye setups for him. And it's just, he's a really legendary skater in Colorado, and now he films more.
Okay.
And makes videos, my buddy Justin Greer.
Yeah.
And so that I think has been the most like creative and fun.
Hell yeah, that's cool.
Travel.
Yeah, I love that, you know, skate and BMX, like that culture really gravitates to that VX, you know, and it's like it's so funny to me, like living in the world now that we do, where like, you know, red cameras exist, and like, you know, you can film in like 8K plus, and like it's like so high def, and like people still opt into the VX because it's like, it's one, it's for the culture, and two, it's just like it is grungy and it's cool, and it's like it adds some depth, you know, in the world of like everything is hyper real almost, you know, like.
Yeah, and it's like nowadays it's like an adventure to be able to film on that because you can't get the tapes.
Yeah.
It's like they're fucking hard to get.
Yeah.
You have to order. If you find a box of 200, my buddy will like, he's always on eBay, like spending shit tons of money just swiping up all the tapes.
It's so funny to think like about that, like, you know, now where like, you know, back in the day people were just like over tape when like memory cards started coming out, and like digital filming was a thing. They're just like, that's trash, we'll never want to do it again. And like I have a bunch of buddies that are the same way. They like love shooting film photos, and like same thing, they love buying film and they geek out on it all the time. And like,
yeah,
I can't say I get it personally, but like I love watching projects or seeing photos that are shot in that medium because it's so different.
It's beautiful, like the film stuff, and something that as a photographer that I've been kind of geeking on and talking to people more about is using like old lenses with new bodies. And so you've got this like digital camera, but you're using that old lens, and it's got that old glass that's just a look like you can't replicate. Imperfections, and a good beat up old lens is probably one of the funnest things just for shits and giggles. But yeah, it produces those kind of imagery that's like those VHS tapes.
Well, it's, like I said, it's like crazy to be living in a time like we do where people are spinning, you know, like when you look at most skate videos that are produced now, it's like years of work, and they have like full on crews of people going out to film this stuff. And like, so then you know, dial it back to a dude with a single VX, and like it's just all the homies out in the street, and it almost takes you back to like being that 15-year-old kid, like having fun with your friends, and that's what it really is all about, you know. I
honestly think that is why I love filming parts, because it's like nostalgia to the purest. Like every time you're out there, you're just kind of like muted out to the world. You can act like you're 15 again.
The only thing that matters is being with your friends in that moment. Like, it is, there's something special about that, you know. Like, that's an experience I wish everybody could feel, because like when I explain that to people who aren't, you know, from that world, it's like they look at me like, how old are you, man? You know, like it's kind of funny, but
it keeps you young.
Yeah, it really does, man. Do you have any, you know, plans to film another video part, or do you think that is kind of behind you?
Yeah, definitely gonna just film video parts until I can't anymore. Got my buddy's putting out a Skater Die 2.
Hell yeah.
So that one's gonna come out, I think, at the end of the summer. So been working on that one for like a year and a half. So
damn, I'm psyched to see. Is there gonna be like a premiere for it somewhere?
Yeah, down in Denver.
Cool.
I think at the Mayan Theater.
Okay.
Something like that.
Dang. I'm gonna try and make it to that.
We
that
definitely have to do that.
Yeah,
that's a field trip for sure.
They're pretty fun. So he likes to play like a bunch of other people's teasers before the video and shit. So
cool.
Yeah, that'll be pretty fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time. So, you know, growing up through skateboarding and putting out these fun parts, like you've ridden or skated for some really cool brands. Like, what are some of your favorites, or some of the ones that like happened where you're just like, this isn't real? Like, how is this real?
Yeah, that's funny because like Vans for sure. I think I've been getting like shoes from them for like a little over 5 years. But when that happened, I was so determined. I worked at like a little shop at the time and met one of the reps and sent him some of the footage I was working on at the time. And he was like, yeah, man, this is really sick. Like, just keep sending it my way. And so that was like my mission at that time. I was like, I'm just going to stack like all this footage and just keep sending it to him. I think at one point I had like 20 minutes that I sent to him.
No way.
Yeah. So like fucking going
Just
in.
committed, dude. That's so cool. And like Vans is obviously one of the most iconic brands in skateboarding. So that's got to feel really dope to be a part of something that sick.
Yeah. He finally is like, fuck, this guy's annoying with all this footage. He's like, let's just get him a box.
That's so funny.
That's
so
sick,
from there,
dude.
it was like, yeah, just that was really cool. And then skated for Altamont for a while, skate mental for a really short period. But yeah,
That's so cool,
sick.
dude.
now I just skate for more of like the local. I skate for Vans still, and then Name and Blood is like a local skate deck company out
Okay.
of Colorado.
So you were saying that one of the tools that you used to get sober was turning to art and putting a lot of effort into art, right? And we're going to get more into like that and as far as a career goes. But with regards to your deck sponsor, is there any way that you've been able to do like a signature board or do any of the art for them or anything like that?
I haven't.
You need to just keep knocking on that door, annoy them with footage.
Yeah, the company I skate for now has been asking me to. I
sick.
just need to, because they did like another artist series from one of the guys that skates, and it was really fucking cool, and people, it was really really well received, because all their decks, Name and Blood, it's like based on Black Sabbath, so they have like this very grungy illustration style that's done all by the same guy, and it's
That's cool.
really really sick. But now they're starting to like branch out a little bit more, and so they had one of the dudes that is an illustrator that skates for the company do a deck, 2 decks actually. So I think I might try and take him up on that.
That's
at some
rad,
point.
dude. That's actually, if you don't do it over there, or maybe it is with them, but I've always wanted to do like a traction deck. So if that's something you ever have interest in, it doesn't even need to be one to be skated, but like I've always loved like that wall art, like deck style. So if there's ever any opportunity, I would love to do something with you because I freaking love your style. It would be so
Thanks,
sick,
man.
dude. That'd be a really fun project to work on.
I know. I've been trying to, I really look up to all the illustration guys. I'm more of like a graphic designer and like brand identity. So illustration to me is just so awesome. There's just that degree of handmade just energy you can feel in it, which is like,
It's funny how different it is too, right? Like from actually like designing a brand, giving a brand an identity versus illustration. And I think, you know, most people don't see that as being like a clear line of difference, but it's like completely different, you know?
Yeah.
It's art, but it's completely different styles of art.
exactly. And my whole thing is I struggle so much with control. Like with illustration, you kind of have to let it go.
Yeah.
And with
It's
brand,
like way more
it's
free
like-
form, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. Like when I think about that a lot, because I'm kind of the same way. Like I love the idea of illustration, but every time I sit down and try and do anything illustration wise, I'm just like, this sucks.
Yeah,
Like, I hate it
exactly.
because
Every
it's not
time.
like perfectly, you know, symmetrical or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like I always get stuck watching illustrators on Instagram. And I'm just like, dude, you make this look so easy.
I
Like,
do the
but it's
same shit.
insane, dude.
Yeah.
Let's jump in and start talking about, you know, how you got into being a graphic designer and like where that passion stems from. And
Yeah, so I always loved like painting and sketching and that kind of stuff. So I did do a lot of art not in the computer before, but I've literally never been able to translate like sketching to a digital format.
Okay.
So that's where I like the disconnect is huge. So I wanted to do something. I knew if I was going to enroll in college, it had to be something that I loved, and no matter what, otherwise I wouldn't finish. So I was like, what kind of profession can I balance like creativity and business to where you can actually make a living? And that's when I had a buddy that was in advertising at the time, and he was like, dude, you should do this. Like, I really love it. It's super creative, fun. You can be yourself. You're never going to have to wear a fucking suit and tie to work. So I was like, all right, and my sister actually was in advertising too at the time at CU. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to give this thing a go. And that's kind of when I enrolled, like, freshly sober and enrolled in college. So that was like the big, I got to make this work.
Especially at CU, that's kind of crazy because CU is a party school. So were you living at the campus, or were you living at home, like in Boulder?
I was living at my parents.
Okay.
Which is what saved me.
That's awesome.
I lived there. I didn't talk to literally anyone when I went to school. I was just there.
Just like head down, focused on the work.
I hated being there, and I did not want to socialize.
Were you in high school, were you a good student, or were you just like didn't want to be there? Kind of same
Both.
thing. Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
crazily. Like, I still got really good grades even with all of my drug and alcohol use.
Sure.
So, but not in math. I always failed math. So,
Math sucks, man.
But not math.
Math sucks.
yeah.
That's sick, dude. So like, yeah, when did you realize that it was a passion? Like art was a passion? Was that early on, or do you think after, you became sober, it became more of a passion, or?
Early on, for sure. Again, like, my dad was an artist. He went to Kendall, which is like an art school in Michigan, and he always had art around, and he was always doing art. And so I just kind of picked up on that, and he would always have us like make our Halloween costumes. We would just do fun shit like that. So, like, very creative. And so I always liked that expression that I got through like skateboarding and that kind of thing. So that's when I started, like, pretty much after I enrolled in college is when I picked up the computer and started trying to do design. It wasn't like early on. Like,
it's cool though to hear that tie back to like the childhood of like hearing like, that your dad was into that, and like then skateboarding was a proponent of it. Cause like I feel like most people who are in that creative space or like the digital space of creation, like it ties back to some like early childhood tie somehow, like whether it's their parents. Like I have a good buddy who both of his parents were designers, and he was telling me the other day that growing up, like they would have their friends over and they would play games, and like one of the games was who could design a brand or like come up with a brand and design it in like 30 minutes. And then they would like, I was like, dang, that sounds so fun. Like
wow,
it'd be like,
yeah.
okay, we're making a brand that sells cheese, and everybody would have to like create a brand as fast as they could and like draw a logo and like kind of like
That's so
Pictionary
fun.
style, but like, and then he went on to be an incredible, advertiser and designer himself, which is like really cool to hear like
Yeah.
that process. So it's cool to hear like your tie back to childhood as well. So
Yeah.
And the positive memories that, I wonder if that's a subconscious thing, that you've got these positive memories from growing up doing art with your dad and stuff, and then now you refound it again, or maybe you still continued on with it but really put a lot of emphasis on it by going to university or college to do it. And maybe there was a subconscious like, well, that's a positive thing, that makes me feel good.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it was always like, my dad did fine art, like really detailed sketching and oil stuff, but he would be like out on the ramps that we would build painting like massive battle rats, which are like the like a rat with skull and crossbones.
sure.
And then like a huge thrasher text on up above it with the stencil.
Oh, that's sick.
And so it was like a lot of the early stuff is like skateboarding influences a lot of my design.
Mhm.
Like grungy. I started like pretty grungy, and then it kind of like still sort of is in that realm a little.
Yeah, I
Here
mean,
and there.
I'm a big fan of your style because it has that tie back to the grunginess. It's like a professional grunge look, like
Thanks.
I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it has like such a unique style, and like that's a style that you get from being dedicated to the the skateboard world, or like an alternative lifestyle. Like you can't
Yeah.
just like fake that style, like that's coming from the soul. Like you can tell that. So it's a really cool thing to see translated into art.
Yeah, I just love retro typography and retro. Anytime I get to do a vintage brand, I'm like geeking out. Like even when I ride my bike around the city looking for skate spots, I'm just like taking photos of type.
I
like,
saw
on
that
buildings.
that Instagram post that you had the other day. There's like a garage like off like 2nd Avenue here in
Yes.
Longmont, and like every time I drive past that, I'm the same way. I'm like, it's like starts with an M. I can't remember what the business is called, but like
so good.
the M is this like big, beautiful, swooping M, and like And I just laughed because I was just like, dude, I kind of like every time I'm driving around, I'm like always like, oh my gosh, I need to stop and take a picture of that. And so
Yeah, I want to ask your opinion on lobster font.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, I think that's Mike's. Mike fucking hates.
that's the bane of my existence,
Yeah.
dude.
That's pretty funny because I had literally no fucking clue what I was doing when I got my first internship. And I laid out this print ad, I think it was at the time, and I used lobster font without knowing. And the copywriter I was working with at the time was like, dude, what are you doing, man?
You should take the rest of the day off.
Yeah. Are you drunk? Or?
Totally.
Dude.
So
Yeah.
obviously your skate days inspired you quite a bit. What else inspires you like moving forward to today?
Skate, music. I
Mm.
listened to a lot, love music, went to a lot of music festivals from a very young age. I think I went to my first festival when I was in like 10th grade. More of like a hippie, like
yeah.
it was called Rothbury. It was now called Electric Forest.
Okay.
Back then it was like all these jam bands, not so electronic, and they had all these crazy lights everywhere and you'd walk through at night. But I always loved stuff like that. Now I don't do too much of that kind of stuff just because it's kind of more for partying.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I definitely see a lot of concerts still.
Who's your favorite person to listen to right now or group to listen to?
That's tough. I listen to a lot of different music. I like a lot of heavy metal, but bluegrass is like where.
Hell yeah.
I like a lot of heavy metal, but bluegrass is where it's at.
Well,
Couldn't be
yeah.
further
Well,
from.
speaking about heavy
They
metal,
kinda
like yeah,
Yeah.
it's sick though that like I mean they all kind of inspire one another too, you know, which is sick. So
yeah.
one of the groups that we really love here at Traction is Pentagram, and you've seen Pentagram live, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm so
Oh,
jealous.
no
I know,
kidding.
dude. Isn't
Yeah.
that so
Wow.
sick?
And Black Sabbath, baby.
Oh, dude.
damn.
Show that to the camera.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
sick.
So I love Black Sabbath. Like
Yeah.
that was pretty pivotal in sobriety too. Just being able to turn that shit up super loud and
Yeah.
skate and just be in a different headspace. But like bluegrass now, I still listen to a lot of heavy metal and that kind of thing. But now it's like Billy Strings is a huge bluegrass
he's the
dude.
man. Yeah.
He like takes metal and Grateful Dead and smashes it with bluegrass, and it's fucking face melter. Like
I love that, dude.
yeah.
I just
so-
love like where you know music like that is kind of a crossroads between everything, and like it's a very simple style of music, but it's also very complex at the same time. Like it's
Yeah.
fucking rad,
Mhm.
dude.
There's just so much history in bluegrass. I can like feel it when I listen to it, you know,
Mhm.
like,
And
just-
it is another one of those like soulful mediums like heavy metal and stuff like that, where it's like there is so much soul in that when you're watching that live, like you can feel every bit of it, man. And
Exactly.
then you go back to being able to listen to it like recorded, and like after you've seen those people live, it like hits so much differently because you know that energy that those people are bringing and like how it is like every piece of their existence.
yeah. And honestly, I think that's why I gravitate to heavy metal and bluegrass is because the lyricism, the lyrics just cut. Like
Mhm.
nowadays, there's so much garbage that like literally no thought goes into, or someone else writes it
Yep.
and someone else just puts it on the computer and auto tunes it. And it's just like bluegrass is real. Like you don't even, they're just instruments. There's nothing electronic about it.
Yep.
And it's just jamming. And that's all it is, just like metal. That's what I love about it.
Bluegrass is so fascinating to me, especially when you go to like a bluegrass show, because like how they can like jam for hours, you know, and like it's just like this continuous like all day thing, and you're just like, dude, how does your brain work that quick? And like how they like play off of each other is like so bizarre, man.
Yeah, it's really wild. It's like sort of that stuff you get into with the Grateful Dead of like telepathically
Mm-hmm.
kind of riffing off each other, because
Yeah.
those dudes would play for like 5 hours straight
That's
without
nuts.
stopping.
And it really is. It's like, you know, telepathic almost, like this like energy that's going back and forth. And like there's something when you're like, you can tune into like almost a higher level of like consciousness where you can like kind of like pass those thoughts around almost. Like that's why those guys are able to play the way that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they describe it too. It's like they literally are like in some sort of other realm. Like
Yeah.
It's wild to think about.
So going back to the art and where you're at now with everything you've got. So graduated college with graphic design degree, I'm assuming. Did you go straight into, where did you go from there? Was that straight into a job or?
Yeah, so the college thing was pretty much a disaster, honestly. Like at the university,
Yeah.
I was so when you go to school for advertising at CU, they have like a really, really top-notch creative program, and there's like two different tracks. You can go account side or creative side, and I somehow got into the wrong track. And my advisors just had me taking all these account classes.
Like accounting, like financial accounting?
Like account planning for advertising.
Oh, gotcha.
So like
Yeah.
managing like partners and clients.
Gotcha.
And stuff. Is that like kind of what it was focused towards?
Yeah. So I had never like been to college seriously. So I just thought like, okay, this is kind of a waste of time, but apparently this is what you got to do. And
because I would assume that was like more operational focus than like creative focus, probably, right?
yeah, like client relationship
Yeah.
style. And then I started like questioning things, I think, at the end of my junior year. And I had buddies who were like, how's your portfolio coming, man? Like, let's see it. I'd love to take a look at it. They're off at like big agencies now. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't have shit.
Oh, damn.
And they're like, what, aren't you like going to school to be an art director? And I was like, yeah, man, like it's been weird so far, but and so
I think it's all going to come around next year.
yeah, it did not. So I was like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? I can either like take two approaches to where I just feel sorry for myself and suck or just handle it. Because I've met my advisors and they're like, yeah, we're really sorry. Like, we should have figured this out a lot earlier. We apologize, but there's nothing we can really change now. All those classes are full. So I just had to build my whole portfolio on my own, which was a blessing, honestly. Like, because now obviously owning my own company, I've been able to like build everything up on my own. And I think it was really valuable still having some of those account like classes, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. Like, do you think that was beneficial? Like in hindsight now, like when you're going through it and you're figuring that out, you're like, fuck, man, I just wasted 3 years doing this. Do you think it's beneficial now, like having gone through those classes to own your own business? Because you're not only the artist now and directing the art, but you're also like having to manage client relations and things like that. So
yeah, to a degree for sure. I think like it's kind of funny because I'm literally the most ADD person you can get. Like if I don't sit there and like basically say, okay, I need to listen to every single word, it'll kind of just roll through my head.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll be like 10, 20 minutes pass and I had no idea what's happening. And that's college for me. Like
just a blur.
Yeah. And if I wasn't there writing down every single important thing to revisit later, which is such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I had to do. But, and then, so I ended up like building my portfolio on my own. Luckily, I had some really kick-ass mentors that were older and helped me out. And I kind of just like went on a mission to meet as many different people as I could. And that exposed me to like a lot of different advertising agencies in Boulder and design firms and that kind of thing. And I was pretty surprised how willing people were to like help you out,
like be collaborative in that world.
Yeah, especially with how busy they are, like just to take time to help people.
And I think the people who are really good at being creative or being artists, like they're very excited about like sharing that with people because that's like what their life is, right? And they like are excited about people who are excited, like they can tell like who is also excited about, you know, doing art and like being creative. And like it's like you said, it's probably is a blessing that you got to, you know, do your portfolio on your own because you weren't getting outside influence from school telling you like this is how you have to design, this is like the style that you have to design, and this is what the modern world is expecting. Like I think that's where I struggle a lot in my head with like college, just kind of for anything, like especially creative or for business, you get put in these silos of being told this is how you have to do it. So like for you kind of like got in on the backside of that and you were just like, oh wait, I have to figure all this out by myself. Like, yeah, sweet.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. And I fucked up so much shit at first. Like I remember the first ad I sent to my buddy. It was like this fake ad that I made for a Zip car. Have you guys heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
And I went onto the campus and I like took a picture of these two turtles that were like in the water, and I like mocked up some text bubbles, and like the turtles were talking to each other, and like slapped the logo on it and sent it to him, and he was like very gracious about it, but like, what the fuck is this?
That's
This
amazing.
Doesn't make any sense.
That's so
You're
funny.
just like, but why not?
Yeah,
It's funny.
But you know
like,
what's funny? Like hearing that right now, like that would probably actually do well on like creative outlets because it's like meme culture, and that's kind of how that sounds to me, is like kind of memey. So like, it's kind of funny,
Yeah.
dude.
Could be
He's
the
like,
next viral meme.
Yeah, it could be. You never know.
yeah,
I was gonna say, you were just talking about your mentors, and we all know how important it is to meet the right people. You know, I think you had Sven, I've had people in my life, same with you. Like, how did you stumble upon those mentors? Was it CU? Was it random skating?
skating
No
actually.
way.
No
Funny
kidding.
enough, like I had met another guy who I think we have in common. He kind of gave me a shot. I just explained that I was really into skateboarding, wrote him a letter, and he met up with me and just started. He really like resonated with my story and just started introducing me to a bunch of people, which was huge for me.
And that's Alex Boguski, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it? I'm pretty sure he told me, and this could be wrong, so I might be off base here. But did you send him a foot in the mail trying to get your foot in the door?
So
That's so good.
Wait,
Yeah.
what?
I had this Vans, like they're started in the year 66. So they have this Vans shoe that's a 66 size, and it's huge. It's this
Yeah.
big. And so I was always told my whole life, like, to get a job in advertising, you need to like get noticed by him.
Yep.
Like I
'Cause
knew
he
of
is the
him,
guy,
and
right?
I would
Like-
listen, to the way that he would like interview and tell people to get noticed. And I took the shoe and printed out like my portfolio, like shitty little magazine, and stuffed it in there, and then wrote like a note in there that said I'm trying to get my foot in the door, and sent it to his office.
Oh my God.
That's so sick.
Yeah. And so then he's like, I normally don't meet with like students and shit, but let's meet up.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, we were writing like, this was probably like a year ago, and he told me that. And so it's obviously like a memorable thing, and like to stand out to a dude who's like considered like the Steve Jobs of advertising, like that's pretty fucking sick, dude. That says a lot to like not only your work but your creativity too, and like your approach to things. So that's super rad.
the work sucked, just to be clear. Like I think it was strictly the fact that I stumbled upon this shoe,
Yeah.
and like,
But it was like the intention was there, right?
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
think that's like the beauty of people that think like Alex does, is that he can really detect when people actually give a shit, you know. And that's like a skill of people that are usually highly successful, is they can figure out like, oh, this person actually cares. Because like, you know how many people were sending him things that he was probably just like, whatever.
But how
you
many
know?
portfolios did he get? Like, yeah, your portfolio wasn't where it needed to be, maybe, but you were insanely creative,
Yeah.
shipping him a 66 size
Yeah.
Vans shoe. Like that, I mean, he probably saw through all of it. And he's like, this kid has it in here,
Yeah.
right?
And I think from like, you know, a mentor perspective in a lot of those situations, like even if the work isn't there, but like the soul is there, that's like a malleable thing for, you know, people in that role. They're like, this can be a massive asset to me because like, you know, the intention is there, so I can just kind of mold this clay a little bit and like help you really get to where you need to go. And like, that's fucking rad, dude.
that's what good mentors do.
Mhm.
Dude, I'm about to ship a 66 size foot to all this bike sponsors I want to get.
That'll get him for sure.
I got all my jobs doing crazy shit like that.
I love it, dude.
I sent a gravestone that come Halloween time, you know how you can get the styrofoam gravestones?
Yeah.
It was like probably this tall, like 2 foot tall by 2 feet wide, a great like styrofoam gravestone, put it in a huge box and wrote my like a fake obituary of me and said I would give my life to work at their company.
No way.
That one's a good one. I
Hey,
like that.
if you're listening to this and you're looking at getting a sick ass job, take notes from this man right here,
Yeah.
because this is brilliant approach. If you think getting a job is hard, just like take a couple notes from this, because this
Yeah.
is
There's a fine line of like creepy versus creative, and that one was pretty close.
toe in the
but-
line, man. Damn,
So-
that's so sick.
Did you
Yeah.
find yourself, were you freelance after college or did you work for an agency or?
Yeah, so after I built up my whole kind of fake work portfolio, I started freelancing a little bit just to get some, I think in my senior year, just to get some real experience. And then through skateboarding, this guy who owns a advertising agency in town, his son skateboards, and I had skated with him a couple times, and I like gripped his board when I worked at Meta,
Okay.
and just like had a relationship with his son without knowing who his dad was. And then he saw me like one day. I had sent some emails over to him just like, hey man, I had no idea who he was at this point, and just said, I really love your guys' work. I would love to like come in and check out the place sometime. And he's like, yeah, let's maybe do that. And then I was at the skate park, like dropping off a bunch of used Vans shoes at the skate park just for kids to have and shit. And I guess he saw me do that, and then he told their creative director to call me and ask if I wanted to work there as an intern.
Wow.
So that was just very weird chances.
Well, and I think that's like another thing, again, for people listening. It's just like, do the right thing. It's because like you never know who is going to see you doing those things, or like who you're going to meet that like is going to be impressed by those things. So that's like a sick, like
so random,
sick to hear. Yeah. It usually is that way though, right? Like think about all the work that you have had, or like, you know, the people that you've met. It's like, it seems pretty serendipitous and like it just happens, but it's like, it's a culmination of like hard work and doing like the things that you truly believe in that like make those things come full circle. So that's a really cool to like hear that was another one of those like, hey, this just like happened because you were being a good person.
Yeah. And skateboarding, I guess he was just dropping his son off at the skate park and saw. So that's kind of like having that name. TDA is the place in Boulder. They're some of the most creative advertising work. I just have always been such a big fan. Having that name like on my resume in the beginning was like a game changer for my career. And I learned so much so fast in that job. And
just
I was
sink or swim type environment, it sounds like.
Yeah. And I was not qualified to be there, but they gave me a shot. And because I didn't go through the traditional school process. I wasn't in the award shows like most people they hire. And I think it was just a random like series of events that I think they were hiring another art director intern that got a full-time offer somewhere.
Okay.
And then so they needed someone to fill the spot. And then he saw me at the skate park and just like weird ass shit out that word.
Do you think you came into that environment with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder because you were like, I don't belong here and I want to prove that I do? And like, were there people in there looking at you being like, why is this guy here?
Yes and no. Like I felt I was scared shitless,
I
honestly,
bet.
when I showed up there, just because I knew the level of the work that they create. And I'm still like have my fake portfolio. Like luckily their intern program is like all students. So the people weren't like that far ahead of me, but I think like knowing and like showing him my portfolio a couple times previous to that, and he just saw like me progressing, he knew that I could probably not fuck anything up too bad. So and I didn't, luckily.
That's sick,
so.
dude. That's so freaking cool.
Yeah, so that was pretty huge. And then I worked at another agency for about a year as an art director. Just wasn't really feeling it. I felt like being an art director, especially at a place that isn't necessarily as creative driven, it was really boring and really tough for me.
Just like you're put in a box kind of, and like you have limitations on the work that you can do, like from that area is what you're saying.
Big clients with like that are scared. They're like stuck in their ways and they don't want to really push the envelope, and they're places like the place I was at, there was not much emphasis on design. It was more of an afterthought. Like the idea was important, and then the design kind of just like was pretty important, but more of the emphasis on the concept.
Yeah.
And I, at the time, was like getting super, super into brand design and logo design and that kind of thing. And I was still doing the whole freelance thing and meeting agency owners. And it was like one day that it clicked for me. I went in to meet this guy who owns Burger and Fare. It's a really good design firm in Boulder. I went in and was talking with the owner, Todd, and he was like, yeah, but don't you just want to make shit people like instead of trying to make people like shit? And obviously they're like extremely good designers.
Yeah.
So they just create beautiful experiences from top to bottom. And that quote like flipped me. I was like, I want to be a designer. Fuck
I
this.
love
Like,
that.
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, he basically ingrained that in my head. And then from there on, it was like my mission to work at a design studio. And then I like just kind of worked my way into that.
That's so cool. So what was the progression from going from being like the art director to being in agencies to then starting your own like design firm?
Yeah, so luckily, like, all my mentors told me, like, no matter what, just always freelance, even at your full-time job, even if it's super hard, just always have one client on the side. Because not only do you not get paid very well when you're just starting off, but it gives you experience to actually work with clients and like run a business and have full creative freedom. That's not like in a box of an agency. So I always did that. And like by the time I had graduated and built my own portfolio, I knew that I wanted to work for myself. I was like, I don't like having someone else tell me what to do. I never have.
Yep.
And so I always wanted to work for myself. So like all those years of experience through agencies was kind of me just checking boxes of like, I
Just
need
kind
this
of
experience.
running through the motions.
Yeah, like pushing myself, like getting as much experience in as I can, like as quickly as I can. And then from there, I was like getting older. Like I started school late because I was partying so hard. So I had like lost several years of not going to school there. So then like I needed to make more money. Like I couldn't work an entry level job and live in Boulder really. And like, so then I was like, I think now's the time. Like the pandemic just hit. This was like 2.5 years ago, I think,
Yep.
or something. And I just was like, I had worked at a design studio for a little over a year that just kind of like catapulted me as far as experience goes. And I was just ready. I was like, I'm going to need this amount of money to be able to live in Boulder. And if you don't want to give it to me, then I'm going to have to go.
And then I'm going to go figure it out on
my own. Yeah. And they kind of gave me like a counter offer. And I just said, nah, I'm good.
Sick. Do you think for like somebody who's looking into getting into like this realm of work, do you think it's necessary to go through the types of channels you went through, like working for an agency to have a successful like design firm on their own? Or do you think it's possible to kind of like start on your own, build a portfolio, approach clients, like start more on like a small local level, like, you know, and then go out and start their own thing?
I think yes and no.
Yeah.
It's tough because a lot of times when I look back, I'm like, wow, I wish I would not have wasted that 4 years at university and just like put it all into learning design. Because literally I learned everything myself on YouTube through books, read tons of books, just inhaling design 24 hours a day. It wasn't school that taught me anything about design or advertising really. They kind of give you like the cookie cutter creative brief and you kind of like already have to have some design sense to fill it out in school. And then the degree, just having it on paper really helped. So I don't think that I would have gotten a lot of the opportunities, unfortunately, without that. So I think you can do it either way. And as far as like agencies go, I think the amount of, you can take two ways. So if you work at an agency, you automatically get like bigger client names to add to your portfolio and it's real work right away. And so that's huge when you're applying for other jobs or trying to attract freelance clients. You can show them, hey, I did A, B, and C for this brand. And it gives you a lot more credibility. Whereas if you're starting off on your own and you're kind of just like sending cold emails or like trying to get in with an agency so you can get some work from them or that kind of thing, it takes a little bit longer.
Yep.
But like all my stuff that got me clients was fake work. So if you can create beautiful fake work that is people react to and like it, that's all you need. So people are so scared to make fake shit. And I'm like, this is the number one thing. I still to this day get clients based on fake work.
That's cool. That's cool to hear. I think that's good perspective for people on the outside who are looking maybe to get into this line of work to hear too. Because like, you know, like you said, you didn't really know what it was going into it, like going through school. So like having like this insider perspective from somebody who has seen success in the industry, it's pretty cool. So
I want to talk about these things. Sorry, I'm like really trying to have some patience right now.
I have one more design question, and then we can move on to these things.
Thanks, guys.
In your opinion, what do you think like the most important personality strength or trait is in somebody that is going to be successful in the design world?
Honestly, determination. It's dog eat dog out there. That's why I like the fake work thing. I literally, anyone who I mentor, I tell them like never stop creating fake stuff, because if you don't have, you're either going to have zero work in your portfolio because you're afraid to make fake work, or you're going to have to go and try and get clients, and it's going to take you a long time when you could just be making fake shit to get bigger clients. So do stuff that excites you and is fun and can show your breadth of thinking, and that's what's going to get you hired over whether it's real or fake. Of course, you'll run into some creative directors that are like, oh, well, that's not even real. But the majority of them are like, don't give a shit.
That's cool.
They just want to see your talents, and you can show them. Yeah, on paper.
And so just like it's hard nowadays. Like there's so much talent out there. You really have to dedicate yourself to the craft and do everything you need to do to learn about it. That doesn't necessarily mean going to school, but just consuming as much design related stuff as you can, or advertising, whatever you're into.
Totally. I see a common theme between skateboarding and like your course on design. You know, it's a lot of like just like showing up every single day and like pushing the issue. So that's really cool.
Yeah, skateboarding has been like the thing in my life that's given me insane determination to be able to quit doing drugs and drinking and like be able to get jobs even when I'm working 70, 80 hours a week and doing something on the side. It's always that determination.
For sure. I always say like for BMX, for me, it's like I had to like, it showed me how to show up every single day. Even when you fall down, like you have to be repetitive. And like the beauty, like I always joke about it now, like the beauty of like being in business is that like when we mess up, like we don't get hurt. You know, like what's the worst thing that happens now? Like when you mess up with like a design project, you're not like laying on the ground bleeding. You know, like so it's like a lot of the same stuff without the like risk of like getting broken off. So
and it's funny how everything comes full circle. You know, skateboarding, that lifestyle brought you into partying, but it's what brought you back out and kept you sober, you know?
Exactly, man.
It's so ironic. And kind of want a taste of that fake work. You said you gave us the turtle meme. What's like, is there a couple memorable pieces of fake work that you did that felt like helped propel your freelance work?
Yeah, it definitely got better over time. And then I was able to like eliminate stuff off my website. Like, I can't believe I put this out kind of thing.
I know that feeling.
Dude, I remember this one thing I did. Okay, now that we're on the very, it was like, I would always get so frustrated when I was hiking because I would see dog shit in bags all over the place. People just like leave it everywhere. And so I just got really, really irritated with it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make a project about this. And I called it Cut the Crap. And I literally like...
I think I remember this, actually.
It saw the light of day for a very brief period of time and then disappeared. But I like created a whole campaign that was fake around like that shit goes into your drinking water. Everything rolls downhill and goes in the streams. And so I like tried to create the concept of, I filled like the poop bags with what would look like fake poop and then put them submerged in water bottles and like photographed all of it. And it was horrible photography. That's like one of my worst fake projects.
I love it.
Yeah, but I love
it's creative.
The idea behind it. You may have taken bad pictures of it or whatever. I never saw them. But
horrible pictures.
But yeah, just that whole having that idea and actually doing it, you know?
And then
like you're saying.
I have to make one side tangent before we get into this. I wanted to do it while we were talking about music, and then we jumped into design.
I knew this was coming. I knew this was coming.
Oh my gosh, this is my question.
It's your question, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, so obviously social media, big thing. There was MySpace. Did you ever have a MySpace page?
No.
Oh, god
I
dang.
don't think
It's like
so.
Interview over.
Yeah,
I'm
let's-
out.
let's shut it down.
Yeah.
Maybe I did, but I didn't use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was more into the Napster at the time.
Oh, Napster.
Oh, yeah.
That was
So-
like the same
So
thing.
we always love, like, I don't even remember how it came up, but at some point in time
Yeah.
we were talking about MySpace, because on MySpace you could have like a song on your profile.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? And so we always love asking people if they remember what their MySpace song was.
Oh, and
So,
the profile, you could have the background
Yeah, you
of
could, like,
whatever. So
design
as
your
a
own.
designer,
Yeah.
that would have been
if you
Yeah,
had
cool.
if you had the opportunity to have a MySpace now, what would your one profile song be?
Oh, man.
If it's not
That's a
Sabbath, just
fucked
walk
up
out of the room.
I think Snowblind by
Okay.
Black Sabbath.
Hell yes.
Yeah, that's
Solid choice.
That's killer right
I
there.
Should
love
we
that.
exit this podcast? That's all.
Yeah, dude, just crank it
Try
out.
and get the rights for that one.
That's the second time in 2 days that MySpace has been in the conversation. I was meeting with the client yesterday, and they were telling me about how one of their friends was really into coding, and they like blew up with MySpace followers because they would hack in and they could change the like user interface design, and everyone wanted it. So they would they were
Oh,
like
that's so
16 in their
sick.
basement, like
Dude.
hacking people's
I
MySpace.
always think about that though, like how many people from that time, because it was just like HTML code, right?
Yeah.
So like how many people from that time were like incredible website designers now, because like you could make like I was always like into like Louis Vuitton and Burberry, so my page layouts were always that, dude. And so like now it's like funny to like, because I like make our website with Traction, it's like so funny because it's a lot of the same type of coding, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, this is so funny, like just referencing back to me being like 13 years old, like coding
So
on
good.
MySpace. But so you own a design business,
Yep.
and you also own a CBD business called The Holding Company.
Yep.
How did that come to be?
Yeah. So again, from skateboarding, this stemmed. I was dealing with this back injury, like really pretty gnarly, and I ended up like going to physical therapy and got a cortisone injection that was like really awesome. It allowed me to skate without pain for like 2 years,
Wow.
actually. So I got a long time out of it, but then it was like pretty much on the dot of the 2 years, it started wearing off, and this excruciating pain was coming back every time I would skate. And so I started trying CBD, and none of it worked. It was all just horrible. And then so I tried another cortisone shot. It didn't do anything this time. So I was really like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I can't, my back pain was so bad that I couldn't drive for more than like 15 minutes at a time
Wow.
because I couldn't sit any longer. So it was like pretty big problem in my life. And it would creep in and then get super, super gnarly. And then I would do PT, and it's a lot to keep up with PT all the time. So I was talking to one of my old really good buddies who I used to work at a skate shop with, and he's like, dude, I got this unbelievable CBD and CBG shit, man. And he's like, I'll bring some by your house the other day, or tomorrow, or whatever day it was. And you should take it every day for a week. Take the CBG in the morning and the CBD at night. Take it for a week and let me know how you feel. I literally popped one of the CBDs, and it was like a world changed, like with pain. And that was just after one. I was like, holy shit, I thought this was like snake oil.
Yeah, for sure.
Like all CBD was like garbage. And then I tried this, and it literally, since that day, I've been taking it every single day. So for about 1.5 years, I have no back pain.
No
Literally
way.
none.
That's
I
sick,
haven't
dude.
had to have another cortisone shot. I haven't had to go to physical therapy. I do some like planks for obviously like core stuff, but it was like a pretty debilitating injury. And now I'm like skating like all the time. I'm almost 31, and it was life changing, honestly. And just what it's done for pain, and not only that, but I have really bad anxiety too. So like the CBG is an upper, so you take it in the morning and it gives you like really clean focus energy, but it's like kick ass for inflammation and anxiety and all that kind of stuff. So that's really nice in the morning, and then I take the CBD at night to sort of wind down. And honestly, it's been unreal.
That's so cool to hear, man.
So with your
we
back,
like combined forces.
so with your back, is it swelling that's pinching a nerve? And is that why the CBG and CBD helps? It drops that swelling and keeps that nerve from pinching?
Yeah, so my discs are, or they were like super dehydrated.
Yeah.
So they would just like slip out and pinch on like my spinal column, I think. So yeah, it just like with that inflammation, it allowed like, it was a lot less inflamed. So everything kind of just like slipped back into place, and I feel just like so much looser now. So I knew like within that first week that there was something huge here with what he had going. And so we kind of combined forces, and then he started like nerding out on all of the stuff about the product. Like, it's a patented extraction method. So it's the cleanest CBD and CBG in the world, honestly, because it's got 7 different patents on the extraction process. It's completely solventless. It uses just water, heat, and pressure. Whereas like 99% of CBD companies use ethanol or CO2.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that when they're, you know, buying products at the store or whatever. Like, I mean, just for all the products that we use all day, you know, like how many chemicals are used in those products. But even something like this, where we're expecting it to be a natural product, like those things like creep into the product, and you're ingesting that. And like for a product that's supposed to be helping you, it could be hurting you more than it is helping you, which is kind of crazy to think about. And that's like not something that's disclosed up front. And it's also something that leaves a bad taste in people's mouth when it comes to a product like CBD, when you thought it was like snake oil, you know, and it's like, because people have had shitty experiences because they're getting stuff that is not clean. So it's cool to hear that you guys are using a process that is so clean and like forward thinking in terms of like, hey, we're putting out a product that like we could stand behind.
Yeah. And to your point, like not only is it chemical solvents that are being used, but when these companies, they obviously have to be below a certain THC threshold. So they literally like blast this shit with CO2 or whatever solvent it is, and it actually damages the cannabinoids from their natural state. And so they have to add in a lot of the cannabinoids after, because it's so harsh that it removes it. So they're left with just like an isolate, which is garbage.
Sure.
So then they have to add back in like the terpenes and stuff, the other beneficial cannabinoids,
the
after
stuff that
the fact.
activates it and makes it actually work.
Exactly.
Which probably makes it less beneficial overall, right? Like having to like re-add that in an unnatural way.
Much.
So when did you, okay, so for people that are listening to this, we've got a number of the products on the table, and I'm geeking out more than anything about, it's an all cassette case. And this marketing, this presentation's just unbelievable. When did you start selling? When did the holding company really come into existence?
Yeah, so I think August 2020 was about when I did all the design and worked with my buddy on the naming and all the background stuff, the brand strategy. And then we went to market and then got shut down almost immediately because there's so many regulations around payment processors.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard about this. Yeah, with another company I worked with.
Yeah, so me and my buddy Al is the other co-founder, and we were like, damn, what the fuck do we do? And so like right when we have all this money invested and we're about to just start selling to make some money back, we get shut down almost immediately, and they took our money.
They wouldn't give it. They weren't just holding it. They like took it.
They held it, but it was for like an absurd amount of time, 180 days or something.
Wow.
Dude.
And so we're like, fuck, man, that was like the one day's worth of, it was like $700, I think.
Yeah.
And that was a lot for us at the time because we were so deep in the investment.
Yeah, especially when you have all that money thrown into it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So back to like the drawing board, and we had to figure out all these third-party options, and we made sure like if we're going to do this, we want to be super legit. So we've always had like liability insurance. We have all the correct CDPHE licensing from the get-go. So we didn't just like start selling without it
For sure.
figured out. We wanted to make sure like we're set up for success. So it was like, they make it really, really fucking hard to start a CBD or any cannabis related company. I don't know if it's regulations or whatever, but the cost of entry is pretty high and the hoops you have to jump through. So it was a struggle, but like I think like everything I've been through in my life, it was like, oh, this is just kind of what you have to do.
Yeah.
So,
You know what's funny actually that just popped into my head is before you started this brand, your mom had actually reached out to us on Instagram, on Traction's Instagram, and said like, my son's starting a business. She didn't say what it was, but she was like, hey, what do you think some of your biggest like things are that you would do to be successful in business? So
Oh, no
shout out
shit.
to your mom. Yeah.
Yeah, I
don't
forgot
know,
about
that.
that.
Just popped it. Deb, is that her name? Right?
Yeah,
Deb.
Deb.
Yeah. That was like, I remember that. Like, I don't know why that just popped into my
Huh.
head, but yeah, shout out to her.
Yeah.
That's so sick, dude.
Dude,
It's so
Yeah.
sick to have the support of like your parents on you know, all fronts too. That's so
Totally.
rad.
Yeah, and luckily, like, my wife has been super patient because obviously it's like so many hours go into running a design studio full time, and then, oh, you're gonna start another company on top of that.
Yep.
It's been like pretty brutal, like the amount of hours that it takes. So blessing to her.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
For
I mean,
real.
especially now, you know, you mentioned it earlier in the episode, but you've got a 5-month-old at home too. So like I can't imagine like where you're at. Like I know how busy that we are with like our 2 businesses, and like, you know, then I can't imagine like having, you know, a kid at home that you want to go home and hang out with, dude. That's gotta be really tough.
Yeah, luckily, like I work from home right now, so I can help out a little. But my wife Nikki is like a fucking superhuman. Our 5-month-old, he does not sleep.
Yeah.
Literally,
Oh.
he wakes up every hour still for 5 months straight. So she sleeps like 3 hours a night,
What a legend,
4
dude.
hours a night.
We'll make sure we send you home with some coffee for her, man.
Oh, yeah.
She's
Get
been
her
hitting
taken
it,
care
man.
of, bro.
Yeah, so
That's crazy.
kudos
man.
to her for like allowing this to happen because she's just full time crushing mom
That's so
mode.
sick, dude. That's so sick.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just geeking. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm just geeking out on this artwork. So
Dude,
if you're
it's-
not watching this and you're listening to this one, definitely go check out this website because, like, the artwork. Well, it's a good illustration, right? It tells you the CBD with the dude that's the moon just kicking back.
Just
you
so
know?
happy.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, that's what I take at night. And
Yep.
then the CBG, yeah, it's like, yeah, check these out, Sean.
Yeah, so the illustrator actually, I did all the design, like the branding, and then we hired an illustrator out in the UK called Fried Cactus Studio. And the whole brand is based on 60s counterculture. So the type of music that me
Just
and
kind
my
of that like beatnik style.
yeah, Robert Crumb type of illustration, and there's a bus as like the main graphic for like Ken Kesey and the pranksters. So we're like very much so into that's our whole thing. Like we sponsor tons of musicians, and that's like kind of our angle. We just basically wanted to create an extension of all the shit we love into a brand.
Well, that's like
Oh, that makes sense with the cassette
Yep.
tape
Yeah.
things. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't realize that. That's
it's
awesome.
something I talk about a lot, but I think it's cool that you guys are taking that approach because like starting a business, I don't think a lot of people look at it in this way, but like you're really creating something that you can create your own utopia,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I think a lot of people go into business like obviously to make money, but they're not really looking at that piece of it where it's like, dude, I can literally build my perfect world through this business, and then it will be a means to an end as well. And you're more excited to show up when you're creating your own utopia through that. So it's so cool to hear that tie back and like why it looks the way it does and why it feels the way it does is pretty
Yeah.
unique.
That's super true, and it's like a reflection of him and I majorly. We love jam music, and obviously psychedelics
Yeah.
are like were pretty big in my life and his too. So a lot of it's influenced by that, but just the power of the medicine and cannabis, and honestly psychedelics too. But like this stuff changed my life. So I just want to share it with people. And if it can be an extension of like our personalities too, that people love and we can create a community around, it's huge. Like it really started to hit home when we started and people started leaving us testimonials on Google just about like
That's cool.
their experiences with it. And just, I think we have like 90 testimonials now that
Wow.
are just like,
And that's hard to do because like
Insane.
getting people
Yeah.
to write positive reviews is very difficult to do. So that's a
is.
testament to what you guys are doing and the brand that you've created.
Yeah, thank you. It's been like, that's what keeps us rolling.
That's
like,
sick,
because it's
man.
obviously not pretty. Like
Yeah.
running your own business, it's
hard,
fucking
man.
hard.
No.
I mean, what is something about this business or the industry of, you know, cannabis that you didn't expect when you guys got into it?
Honestly, the regulation
Yeah.
stuff. Like all of our products are full panel lab tested per
Wow.
batch. So as you can imagine, the cost of that starts to get pretty hefty.
Yep.
But we want to be as legit as possible and provide those test results for every single product that we put out, so people can have a peace of mind that they're taking the cleanest stuff that they can. And so that's part of it. We have to have lots of different licensing. Like we have a kitchen space that we rent out and that kind of stuff, for all the packaging and that kind of stuff. So just the hoops you have to jump through
Yeah.
is
That's crazy.
definitely tough.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we have a lot of regulation for coffee, and like it doesn't even touch what you guys are or what you're describing. Where'd the name come from? I know the acronym, but where did the full name come from?
So from Janis Joplin,
Okay.
her band was Big Brother in the holding company. So we just stripped away the holding company. Obviously, like she was super influential in the time that the brand is based on. So that's kind of where that came from.
That's sick, man. And
Yeah.
it's THC, man.
Yeah, THC, the holding company.
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
When the coffee company I used to run was called Hotbox, and when we were starting it, we wanted to call it the Hotbox Coffee for
Yeah.
like the THC thing. So
That's
kind of
so
funny.
good.
Yeah.
Just kind of works out.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of just rolled off the tongue, you know? Let's see here. Where are we at? This is the first time I've run out of
Yeah.
thought process. I apologize. Yeah, I guess we can kind of move into wrapping it up. Like this has been kind of all over the place. Like talked about so many cool things, man. Like, yeah, it's been sick. Or is there
Yeah.
anybody you'd like to give a shout out to that has like helped you out along the way, or like that's currently helping you out?
Honestly, there's so many people. I would feel bad just naming one or two. So I'll just say you probably know who you are if you're listening.
For sure, man.
Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Tony Hawk for sure.
Any projects on the horizon that you'd like to talk about or like give a shout out to or allude to a little bit?
Yeah, so for the holding company, we're coming out with some gummies that are going to be pretty big.
Hell yeah.
So that's going to be nice.
Do you have any
It's-
flavors figured out yet?
Yeah, so Japanese plum,
Ooh.
and then an orange sunshine, which if you're familiar with LSD terms, that's an old like famous thing. So we're going to riff on orange sunshine for the packaging.
Badass, dude.
Just fully diving into the 60s counterculture.
I love it,
Oh,
man.
shit.
I mean, there are so many CBD brands out there, and most of them are just very plain and generic. So that's been something that I've always been stoked about what you guys have created, is it has a personality and like it reflects who you guys are, which is super freaking cool. Especially in a world of like, you know, people say it to us all the time with coffee, but they're like, why are you getting into an industry that's so saturated? And I'm sure it could be said the same way, but like,
Yeah.
if you create a brand that has integrity and like can stand on its own two legs, like what you've done, like you're going to go far with it. So
Yeah.
props to you guys.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Me and Al have put in thousands of hours, as you know, like just coming up with the concept and
Yeah. It's a lot of
keeping it
work,
going.
man. It's endless work. Yeah, before we wrap this up, do you have any parting words or any motivating words for people listening?
just do what you love. Honestly, that's going to be what's going to put you in the best spot in the end. Don't go work a corporate job because it pays really well. Build your own dream. That's honestly the best. So
I love it, man.
Perfect.
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
work for someone else, you're building someone else's dream. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you're thinking about making the jump to starting your own thing, you just got to do it. Honestly, all you got to do is start.
I love it, dude.
So-
Yeah. Just got to start somewhere, right?
Yep.
James already said it, but truly thank you for opening up about everything. Like your story is absolutely incredible. It motivates me to work harder. Can say probably both these
Oh,
dudes.
yeah,
so
for sure.
you're the man, dude. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks
This
so
was
much for having me,
incredible, man.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killer.
Excited
Stoked.
to get this out in the world, man.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Let's go hit a skate park soon.
Let's do it.
Oh yeah, we need to do that.
Hell yeah.
It's a nice day today. Might have to get out.
Yeah. Don't tempt us with a good time.
Yeah, absolutely not.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Keep being scared of normal.